Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to today's Peace Break session. So, today's Peace Break session will be about decision-making strategies and the 4 bases of sympathy, led by our very own Venerable Dr. Nicholas Thanissaro. Before we begin, I'd just like to make a few announcements. So the first one is tomorrow, as with every month, on the full moon evening, we have our full moon meditation. So if you haven't joined yet, it's a very nice coming together meditation with a large community. There are multiple people coming online, and you can just meditate together under the brightness of the full moon. It's just a really good opportunity to practice our mindfulness. So full moon meditation will be 6 to 7:30 Pacific time. If you want to join, you can join on the MindGem app, on our Facebook, on YouTube, or on Zoom. For Zoom, it's generally the same login as the one we are using now. Same ID and same password. And our next announcement is that our virtual Peace Break classes are going to be on temporary hold until the middle of June this year, because 2 of our teachers, Venerable Peter and Venerable Jason, are in Thailand. While we wait for them to return, we do encourage you to practice your meditation, and you can look up resources for your meditation on our MindGem app, or you can look at our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, or even Venerable Dr. Nicholas's YouTube channel for previous Peace Break sessions. I think our meditation is very beneficial to you. So even though our instructors are away, you should continue to maintain your meditation. If you're looking for something more community-based, we definitely recommend you check out our MindGem app. There's lots of meditators on there, and even Facebook, you can definitely start building that community for yourself. Now, before Venerable Dr. Nicholas comes and gives us his wisdom talk and a guided meditation, we'd like to invite you to a brief yoga stretching session. I hope you all have a nice Sunday.
The next few poses will be done in a standing position. Please move slowly and at your own pace. Keep the sturdy chair nearby for balance if needed. If you find that I'm talking faster than you are moving, please take your time and do fewer repetitions. Take a nice deep inhale and exhale. Place the feet about hips-width apart and grounded on the floor. Lift the toes and spread them nice and wide, and feel the navel pull gently in towards the spine. Push the toes into the floor and lean forward just a little bit. Feel the muscles that keep you steady. Lean back just a little bit and feel the toes come up. Feel the muscles that keep you steady in this position. Now push all 4 corners of the feet into the floor. Notice the steadiness of mountain pose. Notice how the steadiness of mountain pose feels. On the next inhale, roll the shoulders towards the ears, back and down so the shoulders are slightly open. Let the palms rest open to the side. Inhale and let the arms rise with the palms facing up. Exhale, bend at the elbows and allow the hands to come down the center line. Sink into the knees just a little. Repeat this again. Inhale, lift the arms with the palms facing up. Allow the hands and face to be relaxed. Continue with this movement at your own pace. Breathe as you move, and try to coordinate the breath with the movement. On the next breath, lift the arms back over the head. Fingertips point in, palms face up. Imagine that you have candles in the palms of your hands and you do not want to spill them. Turn the fingertips so they face behind you. The palms remain up. Turn the fingertips to the side and then to the front like an offering, then out to the side walls. Breathe as you move, up to the top with the fingers facing in again, towards one another, and then forwards like an offering, then out to the side walls. Breathe as you move, up to the top with the fingers facing in again. Let's do this rotation one more time. After the second rotation, allow the hands to cascade down by the side and let them rest. Pause for one slow inhale and exhale. One more breath. Inhale, exhale. This next exercise is excellent for strengthening the spine and gently stretching the muscles of the back, front, and sides. Attempt to make the movement easeful and gentle. We will do these movements with various arm positions. The first arm position is the easiest. Please be sure to stay with the one that feels best for your body. We will demonstrate them all. Take the right hand to the waist and then the left. Roll the shoulders open. And on the exhale, lean to the right. Inhale to the center. On the exhale, lean to the left. Inhale back to the center. Roll the shoulders up, back, and down. And on the next inhale, gently pull the navel towards the spine. Pull the shoulder blades softly together. Get a small lift in the chin and feel a sense of lengthening through the front of the body. On the next exhale, begin to fold gently forward. It does not have to be all the way. Bend the knees slightly. Inhale and rise back to a standing position. Open the left arm to the side. Keep the elbow bent. Leave the right hand on the waist. Inhale. Exhale, lean slightly to the right, and then return back to the center. Bring the left hand down to the waist. Lift the right arm. Inhale. Exhale and lengthen to the left. Return to the center. Roll the shoulders open. Gently pull the navel in towards the spine. Pull the shoulder blades softly together. Get a small lift in the chin. Exhale and fold forward halfway. Inhale back to standing. Open the left arm again. Inhale, and on the exhale, lean to the right. Inhale and return back to the center. Place the left hand on the waist. Lift the right arm. Inhale. On the exhale, lean to the left. Inhale and return back to the center. Roll the shoulders open. Lengthen through the front of the body. Slightly pull the shoulder blades together. Get a small lift in the chin. Exhale and fold forward. Knees slightly bent. Inhale and return to standing in mountain pose. Pause for a moment. Inhale and exhale. For this warrior sequence, attempt to keep the movements gentle and relaxed. If you notice that you are struggling, move the feet closer together. Lower the arms or make the movement smaller. This pose is great for strengthening the legs, respiration, and opening the shoulders. Step the left foot forward just a few feet. The back foot points in at a 45-degree angle. The front knee bends and the hips face front if possible. Inhale, open the arms and bend at the elbows. On the exhale, bring the hands and elbows towards each other. Inhale, open the arms and push the heart softly forwards. Relax the shoulders. Exhale, bring the arms together. Inhale, open the arms to where you feel comfortable. Exhale, relax the arms inwards. Inhale, open and expand. Exhale, contract. Inhale, exhale. Bring the hands back down by the side, return to mountain pose. One breath here. Inhale, exhale. Step the right foot forward. Take a moment, there's no rush. Ground the back foot into the floor. Bend the front knee. When you are ready, open the arms. Inhale. Exhale, bring the hands and elbows towards one another. Inhale, open the arms. This is a relaxed opening in the chest. Exhale, bring the hands and arms towards one another. Inhale, repeat again, creating spaciousness with a full inhale. Exhale, contract and relax the arms slightly. 2 more times at your own pace. Inhale, open. Exhale, close. Let the hands rest down by the side and return back to mountain pose. Pause here for a few breaths.
Welcome back to the 8th online episode of Live Peacetime, hosted on alternating Sunday mornings by Peacepoint, with myself, Phra Nicholas Thanissaro, live streaming from Dhammakaya International Meditation Center in Azusa, California. Today's session will be about an hour and a quarter long and will consist of a 25-minute talk and 25 minutes of meditation, finishing up with 25 minutes of conclusion, answers to viewer questions submitted in advance, and news updates. Last time you saw me, we looked at moderation and the 5 gremlins, which was a look at the special nature obstacles that seem to appear whenever we attempt spiritual transformation, while examining how to leverage the way we use and consume things to help us on our spiritual journey. The topic for the Dhamma talk today will be decision-making strategies and the 4 bases of sympathy, again, to live up to the spiritual transformation challenge for integration and commitment in our practice, by avoiding bias and starting to live up to our commitment to keep open channels of communication with those around us, by getting along better with others. Again, this session I would encourage you to send in any questions you have by posting them on the Peacepoint Meditation YouTube page or Peacepoint Meditation Facebook page, or by sending them to me personally so that I can have a shot at answering them next time round. So let's start by looking at the subject of decision-making strategies. Last time we learned about how an erroneous understanding of moderation can affect our decisions. And beyond consumer decisions, we still have to have a framework of strategy to protect ourselves against bias in all the decisions we make. This time we will look at our ability to predict what is likely to be a positive or a negative decision in any particular situation. If you ask most people how they decide things, you will mostly get as many answers as there are people. Sometimes people use rather random criteria to decide things. Some people faced with a decision obediently do whatever their elders and betters tell them. Some just continue doing what they've always done, or at least try to avoid doing anything new. Some ask others for advice, while others call a meeting and use the wonders of the democratic process to get their guidance from a majority vote. Thus, in society, it is no surprise that it's hard to get a unanimous decision about anything. Before we've even started to deal with the problems in society, the problem solvers are arguing with each other. The reason why it's important to take care with decisions is to preserve the positivity of heart that we need for our meditation. A badly made decision can otherwise come back to haunt you with regrets that may upset your meditation for years to come. Some people may point out that we don't need decision-making strategies because we already have the law to tell us the difference between right and wrong. However, the law is not perfect in many respects. It is a rough and ready indicator of whether to do something or avoid it. It is like a very superficial veneer of goodness, often only useful for choosing between the lesser of two evils. As we mentioned when looking at problem solving a couple of sessions ago, legal solutions to problems are sometimes limited in their application to spiritual life, because they fail to prevent problems that should never happen in the first place. They are just like damage control, and tend to emphasize the satisfaction of getting vengeance for a victim of crime and their relatives. For spiritual transformation, we are looking at something more detailed than the law, which will help us cultivate our sense of moral conscience. Western ethics is more sophisticated than the law, but it still puts emphasis on individuality and free will, or tends to focus on altruism as being the key to virtue. Since there is heavy reliance in the West on principles that are considered God-given, sometimes it's not obvious how that ethics transforms the spirit for the better. As we shall see, the emphasis for decision-making in the context of spiritual transformation has a slightly different perspective. The ethical system we are looking for needs to be an improvement on the imperfections of human nature and draw on the transcendental potential within human nature. In this respect, there are several ways which the ethical system associated with meditation and spiritual transformation has similarities and differences to Western moral philosophy. Although there is always a place for altruism, there are also egotistical criteria for ethics. For example, murdering others is considered to be bad not only for the victim, but also because it creates harm to the quality of mind of the murderer and leaves them with a karmic debt that will bring them future grief. In accordance with many Western systems, the ethics I'm going to talk about conforms to some extent with the normative ethics of using the logic of the Golden Rule, where a person should not inflict on others behaviors that they would not want to receive themselves. The ethics I will describe will also conform with meta-ethics because it does not shy away from categorizing actions as either wholesome or unwholesome. Absolutism is the idea that ethical rules are universally applicable and implies that certain things are always right or wrong, irrespective of the social or cultural differences. By contrast, situation ethics implies that you need to adapt your ethical criteria to a situation. For example, if a person steals food because they are poor and hungry, should they be judged by the same criteria as an out-and-out thief? The system of decision-making I'm going to describe tends to be more absolutist or timeless in its ethics, but situation ethics is also implied because sometimes it has the flexibility to break the rules in order to accommodate transcendental compassion or skillful means in exceptional circumstances. The situation of decision-making I'm about to describe is supposed to be more objectivist because it derives from the idea that things can be factually right or wrong irrespective of the observer, at least up to the point where the observer becomes enlightened, at which point subjective ethics can kick in, because at that point the person becomes an authority on ethics. The system of decision-making I will describe has a lot in common with teleological ethics, because it tends to judge an action based on whether it helps the actor to reach a valued goal, for example, purification of the mind. In this respect, it is unlike many Western systems of moral philosophy based on Immanuel Kant that are deontological theories, which judge actions to be right or wrong merely on being one's duty to do or avoid. The decision-making strategies I will describe have a lot in common with consequentialist ethics because they tend to judge an action by its outcomes. For example, whether it's ultimately going to lead to greater happiness or pain. This approach tends to fit well with the logic of karma. Lastly, the system of decision-making I will describe has a lot in common with Arataic ethics, which means it offers guidance for how people can do good, rather than just prohibiting them from doing evil. Although the way of thinking about decision-making I'm about to describe to you may look as if it's overly focused on acting for your own self-interest, it doesn't necessarily mean it's selfish. Because the idea is generally to straighten and strengthen yourself with the long-term view of being able to help others too as a result of that. The strategies I will suggest are a set of 10 that cover 5 levels of description for possible actions: the personal level, the personal/interpersonal level, the interpersonal level, the social level, and the spiritual level, elaborating into a total of 10 ways to make a decision that are compatible with spiritual transformation. For any situation, one or more strategies may be applicable, but they should hopefully not lead to conflicting conclusions. To keep things simple, we will assume that there are 3 different sorts of outcomes. There are negative outcomes, which may occur as a result of laziness, discouragement, or boredom, or more serious ones where people are put at some sort of disadvantage. Sometimes negative situations are so subtle that we don't realize they are negative, like the hindrances that come up in meditation, for example. There are neutral outcomes, including standing, walking, sitting, lying down, which use up our valuable time, but which are, in and of themselves, neither positive or negative. Finally, there are positive outcomes, which include generosity, keeping a baseline of morality, spreading friendliness or patience. The first way of judging whether a decision is likely to be positive or negative in its outcome is by considering the purity of your intention. This is a strategy suitable on the personal level of decision-making. If a decision is a bad one, it will be based on greed, hatred, or delusion. If it's going to be a neutral or positive decision, it will be based on an intention which is free from greed, hatred, or delusion. An example of this would be taking more than your fair share of cake. Supposing you have 4 people and only 1 cake for all 4 to share. Supposing the first person cuts themselves half the cake to eat and leaves the other half for the other 3 to take their share from. That would not be a good decision because it's based on the greedy intention of the first person. It is not stealing from the others, but at the same time it's not positive. The weaknesses of this principle as a decision-making strategy are that it doesn't distinguish clearly between neutral and positive outcomes of a decision. You've probably heard the expression, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and this highlights another weak spot for this decision-making strategy, especially for those who are just starting out in their meditation, that it's hard to keep up with the true characteristics of one's intentions, especially delusion, where you simply don't know that you don't know. A second way of judging whether a decision is likely to be positive or negative in its outcome is by considering the effect on the mind. Specifically, whether the thought of doing something darkens or illuminates your mind directly. This strategy is again suitable on the personal level of decision making. If a decision is going to be negative, it will cause the darkening or clouding of the mind. If a decision is going to be neutral, it will make no difference to the illumination of the mind. If a decision is going to be positive, it will lead to a brightening of the mind. An example of this would be the changes that you go through with your mind when you are deciding what to do with a wallet filled with banknotes that you pick off the sidewalk. If you were thinking of pocketing the money, then you would notice a darkening of your mind to indicate that you should not do that. If you were to think of turning in the wallet to the lost and found, you would notice a brightening of the mind that would indicate that it should be done. The weaknesses of this principle as a decision-making strategy are that you always need to be closely in contact with the mind. If your meditational intuition is still uncalibrated, then you may delude yourself into erroneous conclusions, such as unfounded prejudices coming about when you come into contact with certain other people. A third way of judging whether a decision is likely to be positive or negative in its outcome is by considering whether you are likely to personally regret the outcome of your decision at a later time. You have to look at the long-term repercussions of the action, no matter whether it occurs seconds, minutes, days, years, or lifetimes after the action. You need to make sure that you're not going to regret it later or be had up in court at a later date. This strategy is again suitable on the personal level of decision making. If a decision is going to be negative, you can predict it will bring you regret at a later time. If a decision is going to be neutral or positive, it will bring you no regrets at a later time. An example of this would be situations where something is hard in the beginning, but worth it later on, such as trying to study something new when you are already in your old age, or things that are easy in the short term, but which may be disastrous in the long term, such as drink driving. The weakness of this principle as a decision-making strategy is that it doesn't distinguish clearly between decisions that may be neutral and those that may turn out positive. The fourth way of judging a decision is whether it's likely to be positive or negative in its outcome is by considering compliance with the issues governed by the 5 precepts or the 5 virtues. This strategy sits at the crossroads between the personal level of decision-making and the interpersonal level of decision-making, because taking advantage of others disturbs the quality of our minds, causing bad images to pass through the mind as a kind of mental rehearsal each time before we do something harmful to other people. If a decision is going to be negative, it will lead to broken precepts, namely killing, stealing, unfaithfulness to a partner, untruth, or consumption of intoxicants. If a decision is going to be neutral, it will protect the intactness of one's precepts by avoiding killing, stealing, unfaithfulness to a partner, untruth, or consumption of intoxicants. If a decision is going to be positive, it will lead to cultivation of the 5 virtues that are the flip side of the precepts, namely friendliness, generosity, contentment with one's spouse, truthfulness, and mindfulness. The sort of situations where the strategy can be particularly useful are where, without due consideration, you might be tempted to take advantage of the weaknesses in others or in yourself. The only real disadvantage of this decision-making strategy is that they may lead a person to think neutral actions are more positive than they really are. But there are many advantages, since the set of criteria is easy and practical to remember and cover most of the major categories of unwholesome behavior. A fifth way of judging whether a decision is likely to be positive or negative in its outcome is by considering whether you or anyone else is likely to regret the outcome of your decision at a later time. In other words, the collective outcome. This strategy is suitable on the interpersonal level of decision-making and may be suitable for a child's eye view of the world, since it doesn't rely too much on having an accurate conception of the future. There are 3 criteria that show a decision is going to be negative, and you can predict that it's going to bring you and others regret at a later time. If it's going to bring regret to you at a later time but not to others, or we might not regret it at a later time but others will. If a decision is going to be neutral or positive, it will bring neither you nor others regret at a later time. Doing something for our own convenience while disregarding the feelings of others should be avoided, but also burning ourselves out to help others in a one-sided way. An example of this would be situations such as where a child is being selfish. The weaknesses of this principle as a decision-making strategy are that some people are shameless in their actions towards others. A 6th way of judging whether a decision is likely to be positive or negative in its outcome is by considering not the regret level, but the collective outcome, which is the best case scenario where the best case scenario will be benefit to both sides, in other words, a win-win situation. This strategy is suitable on the interpersonal level of decision-making. There are 3 criteria that show a decision is going to be negative. You can predict it will bring neither you nor others any benefit. It brings one-sided benefit for you but not for others, or it brings one-sided benefit to others but not to you. If a decision is going to be neutral or positive, it will be a win-win outcome, bringing benefit both for yourself and others. An example of the application of this strategy would be any situation where you are sharing resources, such as time or money, between yourself and others. For example, personally, it may be good to spend a lot of time meditating, but in your role as, let's say, a father and a breadwinner, you need to split your time appropriately between your personal spiritual pursuits and your responsibilities to your family. In another example of Kunyai, the master nun who founded our main temple in Thailand, she noticed the quality of gardeners' meditation was in proportion to their efforts to keep the grass mown properly. At the same time, to help with the work of others all day long until there is no time or energy left for yourself to meditate for the purity of your own mind would also be a mistake, because meditation is something no one else can do for you. A 7th way of judging whether a decision is likely to be positive or negative is by considering whether the outcome will be of social benefit, that is, not just to you, not just to your immediate group, but to the whole of society. The outcome in the best case scenario will be of benefit to both us and society. This strategy moves up from the interpersonal level of decision-making to be suitable for the social level of decision-making. There are 3 criteria that show a decision is going to be negative. You can predict it will bring neither you nor society any benefit, or it brings one-sided benefit for you but not for society, or it brings one-sided benefit to society but is at your expense. If a decision is going to be neutral or positive, it will be a win-win situation, bringing benefit both for yourself and for society. An example of the application of this strategy would be in any situation where you are sharing resources with society, such as, let's say, a water supply, the internet, the air you breathe, or social order. Thus, something like paying taxes may not be something personally that you like to do, but it certainly brings benefit to the public coffers, and hopefully that public spending will eventually trickle down to bring benefit back to you along with everyone else in society. An 8th way of judging whether a decision is likely to be positive or negative in its outcome is by considering its level of compliance with local customs or the law. Of course, for the reasons we have already described for strategy number 4, the local customs or law should not fall foul of the 5 precepts and the 5 virtues. This strategy again belongs to the social level of decision-making. There are 2 criteria that show a decision is going to be negative. You can predict it's going to be unlawful or conflict with local customs. If a decision is going to be neutral or positive, it will conform with local customs and laws. An example of the application of this strategy would be any situation where in your locality there may be particular customs or laws that don't conflict with the 5 precepts or 5 virtues, but which encourage pride of place at the level of local identity. Even though they may have nothing to do with your religious or spiritual tradition, it is friendly to go along with such traditions, whether it be receiving Halloween trick-or-treaters or tipping the mail carrier at Christmas. The possible weakness of such conformity is that certain unwholesome traditions that deserve to be reformed are perpetuated blindly due to a lack of people to challenge them. A 9th way of judging whether a decision is likely to be positive or negative in its outcome is by considering compliance with the Eightfold Path. I will come back to this in more detail in the next session, but very briefly today, it is a decision-making strategy that is appropriate to certain issues of spiritual compatibility. The criteria that shows a decision is going to be negative is non-compliance with any of the links of the Eightfold Path. If a decision is going to be neutral or positive, it will comply with all the links of the Eightfold Path. An example of the application of this strategy, which we will return to next week, is decisions about other practices in the spiritual supermarket that are likely to be compatible or incompatible with your meditation practice. A final way of judging whether a decision is likely to be positive or negative in its outcome is by considering compliance with the 38 blessings. This is a cover-all decision-making strategy that can be applied in all situations. The criteria that shows a decision is going to be negative is non-compliance with any of the 38 blessings. If a decision is going to be neutral or positive, it will comply with any of the 38 blessings. An example of the application of this strategy where other decision-making strategies may break down would be making decisions about the issue of what to do about dirty female pin-ups in a place of work, which would be deemed inappropriate according to the 38 blessings because it entails honoring things that are not worthy of respect. The reason why the 38 blessings is not more widely known, despite its universal application, is that most people cannot easily remember all the 38 of the blessings, making it unwieldy for most people to factor into their decision-making. So decision strategies that can better enable us to make the sort of decisions that will not upset the quality of our meditation are in the 10 ways that I've described. So why not try noticing how you make your decisions during the week to start to see whether you can apply any of these principles that we have looked at today. So now we come to the time for some meditation for ourselves. If you would like to find a comfortable position for yourself now, as you listen to my instructions, then we'll hear a meditation session that is to do with something known as the first Sunday of the month, which happens to be coming up this Saturday for those of you following our live streams, and we'll find out about how important this ceremony is for us as we are doing our meditation together. So let's do some meditation now. So having paid respect to the Triple Gem, from this moment forth, all of us will sit for meditation. Sit cross-legged, with your right leg on your left leg, your right hand on your left hand, the index finger of your right hand touching against the thumb of your left hand, with your hands resting palm upwards on your lap. Close your eyes very gently, in a way similar to the way you close your eyes to go to sleep. Never squeeze your eyes closed. Make sure there's no pressure around your eyes. But close your eyes very gently, each and every one of you. And adjust your posture so there are no blockages in your breathing or your circulation. Our posture is something which is very important to us. It has to be a comfortable one. If our body isn't comfortable, it will be hard for our mind to relax. The comfortable posture is a starting point for the relaxed mind. If the body is not comfortable, it will be hard for the mind to become peaceful. And if the mind is not peaceful, it will never meet up with the pathway to nirvana. Therefore, a comfortable position and a spacious mind are both necessary components of attaining enlightenment. So adjust yourself as well as you can. Fill your mind with happiness and joy. So your mind is peaceful, clear and bright. Don't let any irritability, absent-mindedness, sleepiness or anxiety, or any other sorts of hindrance upset your mind or influence your mind, whether it's the thought of work, friends, study, family, or any other things. Let go of all the worries about the things of the world, so that your mind can be empty and spacious. And give yourself the feeling that you are sitting alone in the world, as if you have never had anything on your mind in the past, filling your mind with happiness and joy. The difficult part of training the mind is that it's reluctant to come to a standstill. The mind, unfortunately, is used to moving around the whole of the time, thinking about the study, work, family, or friends, along with many other things. It gets caught up in various sensual perceptions, which fill the mind with unskillful emotions. Since the mind has become habituated to these sorts of things, we have to make a special effort to reverse the habits of the mind, to return it to its full potential by bringing it to a standstill instead. Our mind tends always to go to the things that it's used to. If it's used to thinking about study, it will be preoccupied with study. If it's used to thinking about work, then it will go to thoughts of work. If it's used to thinking about family, it will be caught up in thoughts about the family. Therefore, training our mind to come to a standstill at the center of our body is something quite challenging in the beginning. And the difficulty gets proportionately harder as we move to more subtle inner bodies. However, once we master it, it will bring us benefits for the rest of our lives and beyond. The seventh base of the mind, in the center of our stomach, is the point where we will gently focus the mind, because it's the point which is the trailhead of the pathway to nirvana, the point at which all the Buddhas, Vajrayana Buddhas, Arahants and Buddhist saints have passed on their way towards nirvana. Through this point and nowhere else, there is no other place by which you can start off on your journey towards nirvana. It's the only way into the central axis of the mind, which leads into the deeper dimensions of ourselves. Along the inner path, they have managed to shed all the remaining defilements in their minds. They have brought their minds to a standstill at the seventh base of the mind, and once the mind was properly adjusted, they attained the Patama Magga sphere at this point, seeing a bright, clear sphere there. And once the mind has become properly settled, they see something like a diamond sphere in the center, clear and unblemished, without any sort of scratches or flaws, where the smallest size will be the size of a star, where the medium size will be the size of the full moon, and where at the largest size it will be that of the midday sun. And as they allow their mind to penetrate through the center of the Patama Magga sphere, they will meet up with the various spheres and inner bodies within. Starting out in meditation, we should imagine a visual object at the center to help overcome the tendency of the mind to wander. In addition, we should repeat a mantra to ourselves to help overcome the tendency of the mind to think without end. We should imagine a bright object at the center of our body, as if at the center of the body there was a bright, clear crystal ball, rather like a polished diamond. A diamond which has been polished into a sphere, about the same size as the tip of our little finger. We create this image in our mind. For as long as we can imagine the image, then our mind will be at that point. So we imagine it at the center of the body. We should imagine it as clearly as we can, almost as if we are seeing it with our own eyes. But we should imagine it very gently and subtly. We imagine that this bright image appears at the center of our body, imagining it very gently, and imagine this bright clear object keeping our mind at a standstill at the center of the bright object. Think of the object the whole of the time, and bring our mind to a standstill at the center of the bright object. Maintain your mind there gently the whole of the time. Imagine the object while bringing the mind to a standstill at the clear, bright center of the spherical crystal ball, which is so clear and bright. At the center of our body, maintaining our mind at this point the whole of the time. Those who are new sometimes doubt if they have really managed to find the seventh base of the mind. But in the beginning, we have to give it the benefit of the doubt, taking any point which feels the best for us. We have to take a guess in the beginning and maintain our mind at the point of our choice the whole of the time, while maintaining the sound of the mantra in our mind, with the words coming from the center of the body, at the seventh base of the mind. The sound of the mantra coming from the center of the bright sphere, with the words Samma Arahang, Samma Arahang, Samma Arahang, maintaining the sound of the mantra Samma Arahang all the time, while at the same time imagining the image of the bright object, which is bright and clear, rather like a polished diamond sphere, maintaining the mantra and the visualization at the same time, at the center of our body, doing both at the same time, not allowing our mind to slip anywhere else. Don't let the bright object slip your mind, but if it does, always bring it back again to the center of the body. Keep the sound of the mantra going, Samma Arahang, Samma Arahang, Samma Arahang, the whole of the time. When our mind starts to become unified with the sound of the mantra, we won't have any other thoughts coming up in our mind. We will come to a certain point in our meditation, which is rather like we have forgotten to continue with our mantra. However, our mind isn't thinking about anything else anymore. It will have simply come to a standstill at the center of our body. Once we reach this sort of point in our meditation, where our mantra seems to die away of its own accord, if we find that our mind is already at a standstill inside ourselves, to the point that we don't feel a need for the mantra anymore, that we would prefer just to keep our mind at a standstill, this means that our mind is actually at a standstill, and we have reached the standstill of the mind, and there's no need to continue with the mantra anymore. If we come to such a point in our meditation, we simply maintain the mind at a standstill from that time onwards. There's no need to think about any other matter. Irrespective of what may happen in our meditation, we must pretend we are not interested, maintaining the mind impartially at the center of the body. If we maintain the mind in this way, it will gradually become more refined, and we will start to advance the frontiers of our inner experience. We will have a feeling as if our body has become hollow and transparent. We will feel inside us is completely spacious. Sometimes we will feel as if our body has disappeared completely, as if we were sitting alone in empty space. But in fact we feel contented with this experience, as if we would like to stay like this for a long time. There's no feeling of being bored with such an experience. We feel that we would like to stay with such an experience the whole of the time. Today, as we meditate, we'll take the opportunity to explore the importance of the ceremony for offering sustenance to the Lord Buddha, which is conducted at Wat Phra Dhammakaya in Thailand every first Sunday of the month. This ceremony is already common as Buddha Puja throughout the Buddhist world, in the form of offering samples of food on the shrine in a physical way. But it was only when Kunyai Chandra Konok Yung and Kunyai Tongsuk Samdeng Pan, the leading disciples of the great abbot of Wat Phra Nam, discovered that meditation could be used to elevate the physical offerings to actual subtle elements pure enough to be offered directly to the Buddhas in Nirvana, was a monthly tradition established, which is celebrated now throughout the world on a monthly basis, at a time in synchrony with the ceremony in Thailand. This means that although the ceremony is conducted from 9:30 to 11 in the morning in Thailand, Europeans must follow the ceremony at 2 or 3 in the morning on the Sunday, and in America it is on the Saturday night. The merit from the ceremony will flow to nourish the inner bodies on every level of our being. This tide of merit in ourselves will be the origin of all successes and happiness in our life, as well as happiness in the cycle of existence, all the way to the happiness of Nirvana itself. It is a tide of merit which will bring us great happiness, which has no admixture of suffering. Therefore, offering sustenance to the Lord Buddha is like building a tide of merit, which will be accumulated at the center of every inner body, to give its fruits in every lifetime until we enter upon Nirvana. The way we hold this ceremony on the first Sunday of the month is by imagining the various offerings of sustenance which we have brought with us from our homes in order to offer to the Lord Buddha. We imagine the offering as if we see it at the center of our body, as if the image of that food is at the center of our body. For those whose mind is not properly at a standstill, they will not be able to see it that clearly. They may see it as if they were squinting down at something inside a jar. However, if you have attained a certain level of inner experience, you will be able to see the food you have brought for an offering as clearly as the inner bodies you have attained. Rather than seeing it like an outsider, it will be as if you are at the center of the object. It will be as if you are at the center of the object if you are doing it in the correct way. We will be able to see the image of the food we have brought for offering clearly, clear and bright at our center. It will be as if we are using the inner bodies we have attained to perceive the food we have brought for offering. It won't be like stooping down to look at something inside our stomach. Rather, we would see it just as we would an ordinary object, but at the center of the body the whole of the time. It may sound strange to a newcomer, but it will come as second nature for those who already attain something in their meditation. It's only then that we will start to understand what we mean by seeing 360 degrees at the same time. And we bring this food in offering to the Lord Buddha, not just one, but every Lord Buddha in Nirvana. In Nirvana, the number of previous Buddhas is countless. We simply spread the sustenance as far as our awareness extends, as far as we can see and know. The better our attainment, the broader will be our awareness. We will see the countless number of the Lord Buddhas. We multiply the quantity of the sustenance we are offering in homage to the Lord Buddha. The amount of merit accruing to us from the ceremony for offering sustenance depends on just how still our mind is. The more still our mind is, the more merit we will get. If your mind is only still now and then the amount of merit you get will be less. The merit will affix itself to the center of the body inside us, helping to bring us happiness in the present lifetime, whether it be success in earning a living, swift promotion, going far in our studies, harmony in our household life. There will be success and happiness at all levels, because the tide of merit flowing at the center of our human body will help our physical body to become strong and healthy, and bring us fulfillment in every good wish of ours, according to the strength of the merit which we have accrued for ourselves. We will be brought good health and long life without any illness, so that we may pursue perfection for a long, long time to come. We in our wealth will be protected from fire, flood, robbers and weapons, even from black magic. We will encounter only good, beneficial and wholesome things in our lives, and will have good complexion. We will be contented to practice the teachings of the Lord Buddha, and be endowed with inspiring words, whether in our business lives or when encouraging other people to do good deeds. We will be endearing to all who we meet, with a charm which disarms others' stubbornness towards our advice. We will be blessed with an unending stream of wealth, to enable us to pursue all forms of perfection, or advance our business in every way required, so we'll never have to worry about where our next meal is coming from, while helping to vanquish any previous unwholesomeness still lingering on in our lives, which will otherwise bring us obstacles in life, whether it be through anger, depression, boredom or despair, which come as a result of our defilements. Such negative emotions can only come into our minds because unwholesome thoughts previously took control of our minds. Without merit, such defilements can stir up disharmony in our family life. If we are studying, we will end up being unable to understand. We will have obstacles cropping up in our business lives, sometimes cash flow problems or threats from others. But all these sorts of problems will disappear from us through the power of the tide of merit, arising from the ceremony for offering sustenance to the Lord Buddha. Merit will also help us be bright and clear inside ourselves, and when we come to practice meditation, we will be able to attain the true experience known to the Lord Buddha with ease. These are some of the fruits of the merit you can expect from regularly joining the ceremony for offering sustenance to the Lord Buddha. We will be reborn only in two worlds, the human realm and the heaven realms, until we can enter on nirvana, while facilitating wisdom and mindfulness to have insight into the reality of all things, of the material and the spiritual worlds. The merit can also be of benefit to loved ones of ours who have passed away, so that they may reduce any suffering they may have and multiply any happiness they may have in their new rebirth. So these are some of the reasons which we should give our full participation to the ceremony for offering sustenance to the Lord Buddha. It is something we should never overlook the importance of. We should put aside other commitments which we may have in order to cultivate our merit in this way. We must try to cultivate the maximum of merit for ourselves, worthy of the fact that we've been born a human in the first place, to fulfill our aim in life of pursuing perfection, making sure that every day of our life is filled with meritorious deeds. So now that we know the importance of the merit arising to those who participate in the ceremony for offering sustenance to the Lord Buddha on the first Sunday of the month, each to our own meditation practice now for a few more moments in silence until we come to the appropriate time. Sabba Buddhanupavena, Sabba Dhammanupavena, Sabba Sankhanupavena, Sattha Soti Bhavantu Te. So if you'd like to come to the end of your meditation for today, you can gradually open your eyes again. If you feel at all uncomfortable, then slowly try changing to a more comfortable position as you gently finish your practice. We continue now by looking at how we can treat others in a way that doesn't upset the energy we've built up in our meditation, with special emphasis on how to speak artfully. For the last few sessions we have looked at ourselves, our decisions, and the inputs which affect our state of mind. Now we come to the more complex social sphere and start to examine the way the things we do have an impact on the world around us. Because no man is an island, and we all have to live together. What we do affects one another. The idea of emotional intelligence, coined by Daniel Goleman, or the emotional bank accounts described by Stephen Covey, have captured the imagination of many aficionados of self-help bestsellers. They have popularized the realization that, for example, a working parent who has no time for their children because they're always in the office and later guiltily buys them off with expensive presents should not be surprised when their children would prefer more time with them instead. Thus it has increasingly been realized that we need to invest as much effort in relationships as we invest in keeping ahead in the rat race. the model of getting along with others known to be compatible with spiritual transformation and meditation is that of the 4 bases of sympathy, or as it's technically known, the Sangaha Watu. It's a way to provide people with the things that they're always short of, namely resources, encouragement, a helping hand, and security. We don't need to wait for them to be really suffering because of their need before we help them. Whenever we are able to provide others with resources, encouragement, manpower, or do anything which allays any suspicion they may have for us, then it will always be the basis of a lasting friendship. This is why they are called the 4 bases of sympathy. If someone has helped us with any of these things, even if they are far away from us, we will still be sure to think about them fondly. If we must live together in close contact with another person, but they are constantly helping us in any of these ways, then it will be as if our friendly relationship with that person is constantly being renewed. So I'm going to suggest that alongside your meditation, in order to transform spiritually, you need to do more to give things to others, to speak to them artfully, help them, and do what is expected of you. The best way to nurture these 4 bases of sympathy is to examine yourself to see which you are lacking. It's easy to go looking for fault with others, but if you really want to start changing a situation for the better, you have to start by changing what you can change. And this is why you should always put your misgivings about the character and personality of other people in second place, and prioritize seeing what you can change for the better about yourself. Only then can you start to work outwards in ever-expanding circles to your nearest and dearest, in your family, and later to your extended family, friends, and colleagues. As we already spent quite a lot of time talking about compassionate giving in previous sessions, and since we will talk about helping others and the level of trust in future sessions, for the remainder of this session we will concentrate especially on qualities of artful speech. Otherwise we can waste a lot of our good energies via our mouth. It is said that nothing can boost a person's level of morale more than some well-chosen words. At the same time, nothing can destroy a person's morale more than disparaging words. The sort of speech that brings encouragement to the listener is known as artful speech. Artful speech means speech that has been carefully filtered and distilled by the mind as good before it's allowed to pass out of our lips. It is not only speech that is better than nothing. It is speech that has been carefully selected by several criteria. It must be good from every viewpoint, so that no one can find fault with it. The reason why we must be careful with our speech is that no matter how good our intentions may be, if we say something in the wrong way, we can still upset people around us, because those other people cannot tell what we're thinking. Not only that, once the words have come out of your mouth, you can't take them back again. All the listener can pick up upon is the words by which we express those intentions. Most people in the world believe they are true to their word. However, unless you're a lawyer or a politician who has to measure their words carefully, when it comes to speaking, many find that they just say the first thing that comes into their head. If people do have a governing principle about the things they say, then they usually just try to say the things the other person wants to hear. The trouble with such a principle is that people will always say what is easiest to say instead of saying the things that need to be said. Being a good speaker is not just about speaking the whole time, it's also about knowing when to hold your tongue as well. If you have no clear principles, then the more you say, the more damage you do. The reason is that when we have already said all that's beneficial and necessary to say, and we keep on speaking, then the next things that come out of our mouth are worthless or harmful speech, such as gossip, slander, abuse, chatter, and lies. Thus we all have to say something, but for our own benefit we should clearly understand the nature of speech and the principles of speech that are beneficial, so that we can be confident in selecting the things we say. There are 5 components of artful speech, and truly worthwhile speech needs to have all 5. It is not just like a 1-star hotel, which is better than a hotel with no stars. For speech, we must settle for something that's nothing less than all 5 stars. If it's any less, then we should not let it pass our lips. Firstly, speech must always be based on the intention of compassion. If the intention behind our speech is not compassion for the hearer, then those words are better not said. Think, for example, the sort of things you say when you're mad with someone, and I'm sure you'll agree that if you are ever feeling mad, it's better to keep your mouth shut. Secondly, anything you say needs to be true. Some people would like to cheer up a child, so they say, "Oh, here comes the most precious little boy in the world." This could not be counted as artful speech. It's no more than manipulative words to fool children. And the same goes even for telling white lies to fool people into doing beneficial things, or the sweet nothings exchanged between courting lovers. Thirdly, anything you say needs to be polite. If it's not polite, then it can never be artful speech. It's the speech which ought to stay in the marketplace. Fourthly, anything you say needs to be useful. Why bother telling someone that Mr. So-and-so is involved in corruption when the whole town already knows it to be a fact? It will just irritate the listener. True friends save up new things to tell the people they love. Lastly, you need to choose the appropriate time and occasion for the things you say. Even if you say the right thing, but it's said at the wrong time, then you cannot consider it as artful speech. You might want to give your husband or wife or friend a useful piece of criticism, but if you do it in front of their boss, then it turns the advice into a disgrace for that person. If you want to give your boss feedback, then you have to choose the appropriate time, or else it may be seen as insubordination. Sometimes we cannot wait for the right opportunity to come along by accident, in which case you need to do your best to create the opportunity. Apart from keeping all the 5 principles already mentioned, there are 3 extra considerations which you should bear in mind, which can help create favorable circumstances for giving criticism. Firstly, praise a person before and possibly right after you deliver criticism to them. Something known in the trade as sandwiching. A piece of criticism may take 2 pieces of praise to balance up the good feeling lost. The important thing is that the praise should be given in a genuine way. It has to be something which the person is proud of. Otherwise, the person will immediately smell a rat. Secondly, don't forget to smile when you give the criticism, so that the listener knows that the criticism is aimed only at their behavior and should not be taken personally. Finally, even if you have 10 different things to criticize a person for, don't hit them with all the criticism at once. Maybe 1 or 2 items of criticism will suffice per day. Start with the important things and gradually work your way through the other things which you need to criticize them for over the following days. Otherwise, the person will be so overloaded with emotionally that they will probably just quit their job. If you are on the receiving end of criticism, don't forget that often bosses simply don't have time to wait for the right opportunity to come along to give a piece of criticism. Sometimes if they wait indefinitely for the fault, then it will get so serious that it will cause major damage. Therefore, prepare yourself sometimes to have to accept criticism even when you're not ready for it. Try to create an atmosphere of give and take for criticism and advice by thanking people for their advice and criticism when you receive it, no matter how hard it is to do, and no matter whether their criticism seems to be valid or not. Instead of being angry or fighting fault with that person in return, and in this way you will keep the channel open for continuing to receive criticism and advice from that person in the future. Thus, if you ever say something to someone and you're surprised that it makes them angry, try checking the words that you used when speaking to them by using this 5-star measure of artful speech. On other occasions, just as a cup and a saucer must be of matching quality, sometimes situations require words that are an exception to the usual 5-star rule. 99 times out of 100, it's good to speak in a way that is polite, but sometimes a situation may require something more direct. because in some exceptional circumstances, 5-star speech is not appreciated. The exceptional circumstances I'm talking about include where a listener has a superiority complex, where they have less respect for you than for another cause, or when the listener is in the midst of depression. In such cases, more arousing language may be needed for the listener to take you seriously. So this time we've looked at some of the different ways in which we can treat people in a way that will not upset the quality of our meditation, especially on the topic of how to speak artfully to enable us to use our mouth in a way compatible with spiritual transformation. So we come to the part of the live stream where we try to answer some of the questions sent in by viewers. Today my first question comes from Donna Ware. So here comes the question. Are public meditations as effective as peaceful demonstrations? Hi Donna, and thank you for your question. I think the reason you asked this question was that a couple of sessions ago I mentioned in the World Peace Through Inner Peace meditation that it would be better to sit and meditate to solve world problems than go out and stage a demonstration. And if I remember correctly, it was something to do with making sure the atmosphere didn't become worse. To answer the question, I think I should start by pointing out that to meditate is generally non-confrontational, unless you consider meditation to be waging internal war on defilements in the mind. Protests generally are forms of civil disobedience with the object of bringing about change on the social level, especially when the regular channels of governance have proved ineffective. The better forms of civil disobedience would be peaceful and not bring harm to people or property. Of course, if you just sit and meditate at home, no one will be any the wiser about how you want them to change social policy. But the question is whether, by going out in public and meditating, you will communicate a message to the authorities in an effective way. First off, I would not encourage you to try self-immolating while doing a protest meditation in a public place, like the Vietnamese monk Thich Quang Duc and others who may or may not have altered the course of the war in Vietnam. I do, though, have a couple of slides from people meditating as part of a protest. One is from a flash mob of meditators in Alabama at the City Hall who were protesting about the planning permission for a new meditation center in 2016. And the second example is Buddhists joining the XR, Extinction Revolution, climate protests in London back in 2019. I think the fact that people are meditating sends a message that the protesters are earnest, but they want to achieve change by peaceful means. Unfortunately, from the experience in Thailand, when my home temple had to face up to the draconian Section 44 law of the interim constitution in 2017, where over 1,000 armed soldiers were about to seize the temple that was their home, the decision was made to protest by chanting Buddhist sutras rather than meditating at the demonstration, because the police found it more against their conscience to remove protesters who were chanting than those who were silently meditating. So, in conclusion to my question, I think meditating and protesting are both valid activities, but they are aimed at different things. Public protest should be peaceful, but perhaps meditation is not the most effective way of getting a message across. As for meditating generally, the sort of public change it seeks to bring is a deeper level where a critical mass of people can be achieved, where there is a paradigm shift towards a new level of consciousness in the world, where social injustice is transcended. My second question today comes from Joe Nontakorn of Nevada. So here's the question. Is it wrong to acknowledge what we see, hear, or feel during meditation? I know we are taught to mentally acknowledge and just let it go, but if we don't let it go or we can't let it go, is this wrong? Is this spiraling us down the road of bad karma or keeping us in the world of bad karma? Hi there, Joe. Thank you for your question. Meditation is mostly about letting go completely of anything that comes up in the mind. Our teachers in Thailand have compared the process to sitting on a riverbank while just observing as the riverboats or the waterweed float past you downstream. We don't get excited about it and we don't react. In the same way, to go beyond the stuff thrown up by our meditation is to maintain equanimity. Nevertheless, to react is not wrong, so don't think of it as bad karma. Reacting merely delays the time it will take for your meditation to settle down. Some things are easier to let go of than others. I can imagine grief or heartbreak that comes up in meditation is hard to let go of. However, if we're able to do it with the easy things in our meditation, later on it will become easier for the big things, and a process of healing will occur. In some other meditation traditions, they describe the process as just sitting with our issues. And it may look like we're not achieving anything, but this makes a space for our mind to work through its issues in its own time and at its own pace. For those of you who like to visit the temple in Azusa to bring offerings, please be informed that there is a new site for temple offering at the car parking lot next to the main temple building between 10 and 11 a.m. each day. If you have trouble with the passcode on the gate or wish to visit at a different time, please call Jenny on 562-716-2961. There will be a monk on standby in PPE to receive the offering and give a short blessing for visitors. English-speaking monks will be on duty on Wednesdays and Saturdays. A short ceremony for 5 precepts, meditation and a blessing are given on the weekends starting at 10:45 a.m. Needless to say, the whole temple would like to rejoice in the merits of all continuing to take the opportunity to support the temple in this way. In the meantime, try to stay healthy, avoid recklessness or complacency in the face of the virus, maintain a positive mood, speak only positive words, forgive others, extend good wishes to others, and meditate daily. Try to be principled in your decision-making and develop your 4 bases of sympathy, especially your 5-star speech, for your own journey of spiritual transformation. So for today's program, this is me, Phra Nicholas Thanissaro, signing off for this session. So long, folks, and stay safe.